So today is Saturday, June 12th, and it's been a while since I posted an update. I've been pretty busy and just trying to get a lot of work done, but hopefully I can get back to a little bit more regular updates. So as a lot of you know, I flew from Idaho to Florida for Sun and Fun about 2 months ago. The flight went really well. The plane flies beautifully. I did run into a couple of lane light issues, and at the time you could get on the ground and get into the config menu for the G3X and establish kind of what that issue was. And I was getting a cylinder 3-4 ignition fault, which I had identified to be cylinder 3, the top. I don't actually remember exactly which plugs it was, but essentially it was an ignition issue that had to do with the plug wires. So I, from doing the 25-hour inspection and pulling off the plugs and examining them and all of that, I had figured maybe from popping off the plug wires, I loosened up a connection. So I kept removing them and then retightening the plug wire with new dielectric grease and all of that, and it would kind of fix it for a little while. Ultimately, what the issue was the coil pack itself. So, everything comes really well secured from Rotax, so there's not really a whole lot of, and of course this is not something I was messing with ever, like the plug boots were, but basically I ended up pulling off one of the wires to this particular coil pack here, and the strands inside the wire had been sheared off on the pin out of the coil pack, almost like it was kind of over tightened from the factory or something like that. So I ended up just snipping off a bit of the wire, retightening it with some fresh dielectric grease, and the problem has been solved ever since. So it did cause a couple of unexpected stops on the flight out there. I know a couple people were watching the trip on FlightAware and were seeing the unexpected stops and hoping everything was okay. I mean, the engine still runs just fine with the lane light issue. It's just out of an abundance of caution to get on the ground, try to identify the problem and solve it. That being said, the Garmin has come out with a new software update that rather than having to go into the config menu, it now displays the lane light errors on screen. I haven't gotten a lane light since I did the update, but it's a really great new feature, and so I really like Garmin avionics. They're always making updates and always improving the system, and so that's really awesome. So anyway, so here's what we got going on in here now. Oh yeah, by the way, flying out to Sun and Fun and meeting a lot of you, that was a really great experience. Everybody in the Sling community is just awesome. It was really great meeting all of you that I did get a chance to meet. So here's what we got for the overhead console. Both of these planes have a similar overhead console. The buttons are all the same on both. It's just basically all the lights. So nav, strobe, beacon, taxi, and landing lights are up there overhead. And as you can see, when you're sitting in the seat, it doesn't obstruct the view out the windshield at all, but the buttons are still readily available, and it just kind of reduces some of the clutter on the panel because it's always nice to reduce the amount of available buttons in one area if lights are up here and engine controls are on the panel. Just kind of seems to clean up operation. In addition to that, a really cool feature that I like about these overhead consoles is it actually acts as the bolt cover for, so everybody with a finished TSi, there's like the little bolt cover that goes up in there, but this does a really good job of kind of a 2-in-1 feature, and it molds in and got it blended pretty nicely in there, so I'm pretty happy with that. Both of these two planes have the same overhead console. This plane, the builder decided that he wanted an overhead console in the rear, and it houses his Limo plugs. So his headsets for the two front seats are going to hook in right there, and he got the coiled wire for his Bose headsets, and those will just kind of hang down from there. We'll install headset hangers here, and that'll allow the little control box for the headset to clip to that and be out of the way. And so I think that's a pretty good feature as well. In addition to that, the location of this one is similar to the front one, so it blocks, it's effectively the bolt cover as well. So everything this way ends up being really nicely integrated, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turns out. So that's pretty exciting. Another really cool thing that we're doing with both of these planes is for the heater. So this one has the front top skin already installed, but for the heater, we're running a 2-inch scat tube down the center, and then it goes to a splitter to 2 1-inch tubes. And those 1-inch tubes go down through the lightning hole there. And this positioning, actually, I was working on something really similar to this, and I was talking to Hoosie out at Sun and Fun. Shout out to Hoosie for kind of refining the idea here. He was working on it as well independently, and so we got together and kind of discussed this idea. So these 2 1-inch tubes are small. However, I've tested it with the blower fan, and a considerable amount of air gets through those, and so it's guaranteed to keep its warmth going down through this duct run. And these 1-inch tubes are not even close to any of the control rods, and they'll mount up right here to a vent with the this control plate cover here. And so I think that that'll be a really elegant solution to getting heat to the backseat passengers. The stock butterfly valves, I've mentioned them in a previous video. It's really beautiful, elegant design on paper. However, the functionality is just not quite there. So it allows a lot of the heat to kind of dump out the side. They're leaky, so you know the heat mixes with cold air coming through the leaking in through the NACA duct, and then it's got to travel down this side channel here to the back seat passenger. And of course, that's just bare aluminum exposed to the outside, and so you lose all the heat by the time it gets to your back seat passenger. I found this out. My Sling is set up the stock way with the butterfly valves and everything. I kind of found that out the hard way. My backseat passenger was getting a little chilly up at 17,000 feet for hours on end. So I think this is a good solution. So I mentioned these in a previous video as well. I've got all my NACA splitters mounted up. They're not bonded in yet. They need a little bit more finishing work as far as the flanges that go on them and the servos mounted up to them. I'll get that done hopefully next week. And the way these are going to operate is the top one's going to go straight out to the panel, to the vent on the panel, and the bottom one, or vice versa, it doesn't make a difference, is going to go to the side channel and allow the fresh air to go through the stock routing. So you know the fresh air is not going to be changed by ambient temperature from the side, and it'll allow some fresh air to get back to the back seats when that's wanted. And I'm not sure if I filmed this in a previous video or not, but I used a shop vac to test this with a full completed assembly, and it seals off completely. So no air at all can get through the completed assembly from the NACA duct to the vents themselves. So, and both of these planes are going to use the Aveo eyeball vents that seal off a little bit better than the stock plastic ones. So we'll have just another level of sealing. So I'm really excited about this idea, and I think it's going to work out really nice. So now we've got guaranteed heat available to the back seats and fresh air available to the back seats through 2 separate systems that are a little bit more refined and a little bit more control. So another thing that we've kind of figured out here on my plane, you know, I was the guinea pig and kind of had to go through all of this stuff the stock Sling way. There's a lot of points for air to leak in through the outside into the cabin. So once again, when you're up high, that air is really cold and it was coming in. So this was actually an idea of one of the Build Assist clients that's here. This is foam backer rod. You get it for Home Depot. It's really inexpensive. They use it to fill larger cracks instead of wasting 10 tubes of caulking or whatever. So we put some foam backer rod in there and then sealed it up with silicone. top and bottom. And so that, because it's flexible and the silicone has some flex, so, you know, on landing or takeoff or whatever, when this gear leg is flexing, that'll flex along with it and keep the seal. But it's a really elegant solution, really inexpensive, and I think it's going to be really effective. So we'll do that same thing back here on the rear spar mount, as well as the wing spar. After it's in, there's a little bit of a gap top and bottom. We'll seal all that up after the wings have been installed. And yeah, I think that that's going to be a good solution. So the only thing I haven't yet figured out here is what we're going to do with the aileron. The flap is pretty well sealed up, and it doesn't ever change position. So we'll be able to seal that up pretty good around the flap. The aileron's got a really big hole, and as you move that, it kind of moves up and down as you're moving the aileron back and forth. So it's very slight, so I think we'll be able to do it with like a rubber gap seal or something like that. But I think it's really important to try to keep all of your openings to the outside of the airplane sealed off as best as possible. So another thing is I got my fuel manifold that I had mentioned in a previous video installed on my plane for testing, and it's working phenomenally. It does a great job of cleaning up the fuel line assembly. It really simplifies everything. It basically just has an inlet, 2 outlets, one for the fuel filter, one for the bypass, and an outlet here for your fuel pressure sender. And so it really cleans everything up, and it's a really elegant solution. It's working great. So this one will go on to this plane next week, and I'll show an update of that as well, just to kind of show the simplicity and cleanliness of the assembly. So I do have these available for purchase now. A couple people have already reached out, and I've sent them out to them. So if you're interested in that, send me an email. I'll leave my email in the description of the video here, and you can get one sent out for you. Oh yeah, so another thing that we've done on these planes here is I've relocated the ECU mounting position just slightly. So the stock mounting location is here on the back of this rib. The issue with that is it's very difficult to access the ECU mounting position once your front top skin is on. If you ever have to maintenance the ECU for any reason, or get to it for any reason, it's almost impossible to do. I'm certainly not small and agile enough to get underneath there and work on there. So this plate here mounts up in this location. The rib nuts aren't on it yet, and the ECU mounts to the bottom side of this plate, and so it's much more accessible down through here, just kind of reaching under there to take it off and do what you need to do with it. So that has allowed us on this other plane here to get the front top skin installed before we've gotten the engine. This particular plane is held up because the engine is taking a while to get here. It's a lot of shipping delays and things like that, so we're kind of just trying to do what we can to keep moving without, having that engine. This particular plane is a little bit held up because we didn't get our order into Midwest Panel Builders to get the pre-made harness and panel and all that from them, and so I'm having to do a lot of this myself, and I am not the fastest with wiring. I'm actually pretty proud of the way all of this is going to route and tie in at the end. We're also doing some exciting things that you'll have to wait for to see what's going on with that. But yeah, it looks crazy right now, but I promise it's not as bad as it looks. So I think that's pretty much the update on these planes. So you can see the overhead console kind of not finished up on this plane, so you get an idea of what's going on with it. You can see, I'll move out of the way, wires. That's how the bolts go down through there, and they're nice and concealed within this, but still accessible through the big opening there. So I really like the way that these turned out for kind of a dual purpose solution. So we've gotten some of the painting done. I've got an inflatable booth, which is a huge upgrade over what I was using to paint my personal plane, because we can blow it up when we need it, deflate it when we don't need it. And yeah, we've got the wings and the tails all painted up. This particular wing has a coat of clear that didn't get applied quite thick enough, so we're gonna have to wet sand that down a little bit, get it smooth, and shoot it again with a fresh coat of clear so it looks beautiful and shiny like these other wings do. So yeah, once that one is cleared, then these will all get shipped out to the hangar to store and wait for final assembly. These planes are not too terribly far behind at this point, before just getting kind of buttoned up and painted and shipped out for final assembly. So I'm shooting for hopefully late July for that. And the big thing is, this is not my Kitfox. This is a Build Assist Kitfox that I'm working on with a friend who has completed just an absolutely phenomenal, beautiful, basically a show plane version of a Kitfox. And he's helping me to build this for another Build Assist. Oh, there's Andrea and Tori. Say hello. Hello, Tori. So, yeah, so we've got the controls all hooked up, really buttery smooth, and the flap handle is hooked up, and it's a really fun process building the Kitfox, because you know, it's a lot different than the Sling. It's got a lot more wood and a lot more sanding. Of course, the Sling has no wood, and sanding is pretty much just for the composite parts. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And so my Kitfox fuselage and wings are all out at my hangar right now. I'm getting the closeout ribs set and the butt ribs and fuel tanks. So that's all already been done on this plane, and mine is following shortly behind. I try to get out there at nights and maybe one day on the weekend to try to get mine back over here, because it's rough working in two different spots separated. So I will be doing kind of more frequent, regular updates on the Kitfox build as that goes. But yeah, mine is started and almost ready to bring back out here. So I'll get a video update on that pretty soon. And yeah, I'll probably show a little bit of this one as well as it comes along. So I think that's it for now. Have a good weekend, everybody, and hopefully I can stay a little bit more regular with my updates and have a little bit fewer holes in the details that I can provide for everybody.